Anime recapped here. Today I'm going to explain a comedy fantasy anime called Didn't I Say to Make My Abilities Average in the Next Life? Spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. A young girl arrives at the royal capital of the Kingdom of Tills. She goes to the inn where she will be staying for a little while and introduces herself as Mile to the inn caretaker, Lenny. When Lenny finds out that she'll be attending the hunter prep school, she cheers her on and starts fantasizing about how if a famous hunter gave their good graces to the inn, they'd be raking in dough. Though Miles shares the innkeeper's vigor, she has different sentiments. Determined, she announces that she is aiming for one thing, and that's an absolutely average, completely unremarkable everyday happiness. The following day, Mile goes sightseeing, and she notices that aside from Lenny, she hasn't seen any children around and wonders if even the fantasy world has been hit by a declining birth rate. Lost in thought, Mile nearly trips, but an armored stranger catches her. As Mile thanks the person, she fumbles because she doesn't know whether her savior is a man or a woman, so she ends up calling them Miss Sir. After telling her to be careful, lest she loses her way back home, Mile's savior leaves, but not without informing her that she's a woman. The girl continues to walk around town, mulling over being treated like a child when she's actually older than she looks. She's about to go through an alleyway when another girl calls her attention and makes her turn back. Mile was about to head off to a seedy part of the town, and the girl warns her that they chew up and suck on the bones of children like her who walk into the slums without care. Once more, Mile's insulted that someone's treating her like a child, but still apologizes for her carelessness. In turn, the girl says it's not as though she cares about what will happen to some kids she doesn't know, but if she pretended not to notice her, she wouldn't have slept well. And oh boy, Mile could just hear the baka in her words, so she concludes that the girl's a tsundere. Of course, she doesn't know what a tsundere is, which makes Mile remember that the concept of tsunderes doesn't exist in that world. Finally, Mile arrives at the marketplace and once more, she bumps into a woman and stumbles to the ground. The kindly woman helps her, dusts her dress, and apologizes before they part ways, leaving Mile to think that she was a nice lady. Next up, she stops by a stall that sells orc meat and buys one of them. Now these meats are huge with a capital massive. It's almost as tall as her, but despite what her childlike body would suggest, she's actually strong as hell. She easily lifts up the meat and uses storage magic to keep it in a safe place. The vendor comments on how there aren't many people who can use that kind of magic, yet a child like her can. He reminds her that it's dangerous for children to be out and about and that she should hurry up and go home. That night at the inn, Mile learns why everyone and their mothers have been warning her to stay at home. According to Lenny, children around their age have been disappearing in the capital lately, so she warns Mile to be careful as children who can use magic are valuable. In her room, her nanomachine companion named Nano-chan manifests out of thin air so the two of them can talk. Ordinary people can't see him, and Mile's the first person in hundreds of years to perceive their kind. Finally, Mile gives us our much-needed exposition dump and explains that her real name is Adele von Askham, and that she's a noble from the kingdom of Brandel. But that's not all. Prior to all this, she was a Japanese high school student named Kurihara Misato. It turns out that she's one of those people who have been reincarnated into another world. In her past life, she could always do things better than everyone else and always stood out. She could do pretty much everything except make a single friend. Fortunately, her parents and younger sister loved her very much. One day while out on the street, speeding Chuck-kun was about to hit a little girl. She jumps off to save the child, sacrificing her life. And thus a godly figure told her that she could be reincarnated into another world. This reincarnation comes with added bonuses, and the bonus she asked for was to make regular friends and normal life. She just wanted to have average abilities. The next night, Lenny's nowhere to be seen. Another worker at the inn and the cook are arguing about whether or not the cook should go out and look for her. Mile takes it upon herself to venture out at night and look for Lenny. Nano-chan comments that for someone who wants to live an average life, she sure does keep sticking her nose in dangerous business. Thinking that Lenny could be there, she wanders into the slums. But the moment she steps in, two dangerous-looking dudes are already there to catch her. Luckily, the armored woman from earlier arrives at the scene to fight against the guys. She ends up with a cut on her arm, so Mile uses sleep magic on the guys to keep them from hurting the woman any further. It turns out that the woman is a knight and she's investigating the case of the missing children. She introduces herself as Mavis and accepts Mile's offer to help. After interrogating the guys, they find their way to the bad guy's hideout, which is, of course, a warehouse. Mal thinks about how no matter the universe, warehouses are the default baddie hideout. Suddenly, the two men appear behind them and start attacking. Before Mal and Mavis could get to them, the tsundere from earlier shows up and hits them with fire magic, easily defeating them. She introduces herself as Reina, and she's also on the missing children case. The trio sneaks their way inside the warehouse. Mal uses unlocking magic to unlock a knobless door, which then reveals a room that houses several children along with an older lady. Lo and behold, it's the same kindly woman who bumped into Mal in the marketplace. Her name is Pauline. Let's ignore the insane coincidence at play here and move on to the elephant in the room. Why is Pauline a non-child with all the other children? She explains that she happened to come across the kidnappers while they were abducting the children, and since she and the children were both in danger, Pauline offered to look after the children. And the kidnappers, well, they evidently shared one brain cell and agreed. Mal then asks if Lenny's among the children here, but Pauline says no and assumes that she must have been taken directly to the boss. In her fright, Mal runs out of the room only to be greeted by the ringleader behind all this. Mal immediately asks her if she's holding Lenny captive, but the leader declines this, not wanting to waste her breath on them. Reina springs into action and attacks them with a fireball, but one of the henchmen easily overpowers her. Mavis joins the fray too, but another one of the henchmen takes care of her with ease. It turns out that the enemies they're facing are B-ranked hunters, and from the looks of it, they severely outclass Mal's ragtag. With Mal's group on the brink of defeat, the leader haughtily announces that she will allow no one to interfere with her ambitions. Now, what sort of evil, twisted, and peace-shattering ambition could this abductor have? Her dream is to form a harem of beautiful girls. Ma'am. Mal and her companions are astounded by her evil desires, but she quickly adds that she'll only admire them and won't do anything improper to them. Sure, like that makes anything better. She goes on and on about her harem fantasy while her henchmen look like they don't want any part of her nonsense. The leader then emphasizes that untainted little girls like Mal are what she wants in her collection. In particular, the leader is taken by her wonderfully flat chest, which strikes the rage of a vengeful god in Mal. What did she say about her chest? While the girl's absolutely seething, the leader croons about her next fantasy. A young girl sad over her lack of chest and her comforting her about it like a mother would. Mal is livid. Her chest is a sore spot for her, and in her anger, she's beginning to exude an overwhelming amount of magical power. Nana-chan interrupts this program to give us another exposition dump. In that world, magic occurs when nanomachines take the spellcaster's thought waves, which is commonly referred to as magical power. This causes various phenomena, and Mal's thought waves are 6,800 times stronger than the other spellcasters of that world. That is basically why she's OP. Now, didn't she ask the god to make her abilities average? See, the god hit her with a bit of a monkey's paw here. Among the creatures of that world, the strongest is the Elder Dragon. Mal is right in the middle between the weakest creature and the strongest creature, which grants her half of the power of the Elder Dragon. To put this into perspective, it's like asking a genie to make you beautiful and the a-hole genie makes you the most beautiful ugly person. Now, back to the show. Mal is so shaken by anger that she launches a powerful attack on the leader while shouting, "I am still growing!" The warehouse gets completely destroyed in an instant, along with the villains. Her companions are too stunned to speak after witnessing such a powerful display of magical power. Realizing what she's done, Mal runs away while apologizing, leaving them behind. Oh, and if you're curious about what happened to Lenny, she just went on a side trip and got home late. The next day comes, and it's finally Mal's first day at school. Hello, Hunter Prep School, where her tuition is free and she'll be staying in the dormitories. When she reaches her dorm room, she's shocked to see Mavis, Reina, and Pauline as her roommates. They are equally shocked as well. And now, Mal is placed in a tight spot. How is she gonna explain what happened the night before? But Mavis breaks the silence by formally introducing herself as Mavis von Osteen, aged 17. She comes from a family of knights and aims to be a swordswoman. Reina says that she's a 15-year-old mage who's also a rank E hunter. People call her Crimson Reina. Pauline is a 14-year-old who comes from a family of merchants. She's aiming to be a mage. Now it's Mal's turn. She claims to be a 12-year-old F rank who's aiming to be a mage too. The others can't believe her. Well, after all, seeing her demolish that group of B ranks, they're sure that's no F rank power. But before Reina can ask for the truth, the school bell rings, signaling that it's time for their orientation. There, Principal Albert tells the new students that he'll be cramming what one would typically learn in years of their own experience into 6 months. And if they manage to graduate, they'll advance to D rank, while students with the highest scores will be awarded a C rank. After the orientation, the students are asked to be in pairs and spar against each other using swords. Mavis receives a favorable comment from Principal Albert. When it's Miles' turn, she aims to be as average as possible, but her plans are severely derailed when her opponent, a cocky son of a gun who's already an active hunter, comments on her flat as a board chest. Furious, she attacks him with her full strength and into oblivion. The other students are amazed. When Miles realizes what she had just done, she tries to reason out that he said he had a stomach ache, then fell over. Right. For their next activity, they have to shoot fireballs at a target. In her effort to be inconspicuous, she copies Reina's spell and uses half the magic the girl used. Unfortunately, this only makes Reina even more suspicious since the spell she copied was an original that only Reina can use. Not knowing what to say to her, she runs off. In a secluded area away from the rest of the students, Miles mulls over the fact that she's already screwed up her plans of being average. She starts making a neon droid doll and sings to cheer herself up, and Pauline sees this. She compliments her doll, saying that it's cute. She asks her how she made the doll, and she lies about it being a secret family technique. Pauline invites her to tea, but really it's just her roommates interrogating her. She tells them that she's really just a super normal 12-year-old. After seeing that, they're not convinced by this. She tries to escape the sticky situation by summarizing the events that happened in a bestseller book. It turns out that they've read the book as well, and at this point, Miles just keeps spewing one BS after the other, none of which is helping her case at all. Reina is so pissed off that Miles refuses to tell them the truth, but being the more mature and understanding of the lot, Pauline makes them understand that they all have something about themselves that they'd rather not tell people. She adds that she hopes that one day, Miles could tell them the truth when they've become better friends. Reina apologizes for forcing her to tell them the truth. The next day, the principal asks them to form a party and complete quests within a week. Miles forms a party with her roommates. For their first quest, they choose the one that involves defeating 10 horned rabbits. Mavis comments that those are the lowest ranked monsters, so it should be simple. Alas, she spoke too soon, as those horned rabbits are very quick on their feet, so catching even one is going to be difficult. Will it even be possible to defeat 10 of those? Reina, Pauline, and Mavis all say that it's their first time going on a quest such as the one they're currently doing. Mal contemplates what she could do to help them clear the quest. She could easily defeat 10 horned rabbits herself, but there would be no point. She decides to help her party members improve their skills so that they may all work together to complete the quest. With her above average magical and physical abilities, she helps train her party members and oversees their progress personally. While Pauline and Reina are working on their magic, Mal closely supervises Mavis since she's a swordswoman, and therefore, she should start training on her form. Mal's superhuman strength manifests when she spars against Mavis, who breaks her sword in the process. When the day ends, Mal uses her storage magic to set up a tent and a campfire. Her party members note that she won't stop getting invitations once the others learn about this, but she insists that it's best to keep her abilities under wraps. As for Mavis, she's thrilled about her training and is fired up to train more, but she remembers that her sword is broken. Mal then uses her magic to repair the broken sword. Anytime anyone asks her about her skills, she just tells them that it's a secret family technique. Just barely a day away from the deadline, with everyone working together, their party finally completes their first quest. They are about to return from their horned rabbit hunting when a giant stone golem appears out of nowhere. According to Reina, a group of C ranks can barely defeat the monster. They don't stand a chance at their current level, so they must run. The others are already running away, but Mal is left standing in awe at the monster. The girl's nerding out, wondering about how it's running, where the power source is, and the like. She just wants to pop it apart and investigate every inch of it. With Mal still frozen in awe, the other rock golems appear behind them. Now they are surrounded and they have no choice but to fight the monsters. Though they struggle heavily with landing a scratch on one, they eventually bring one down. As for Mal, she's already defeated the other two golems on her own, and is now fawning over them. Her party members stand there dazed. Reina comments that she's not even surprised by her anymore. Back at the school, Principal Albert announces the results of their assignment. Their squad passes the task. The principal also shared with the class that they managed to take down 3 rock golems they encountered. The whole class is surprised to hear this. Despite wanting to live a completely ordinary life and be blessed with average abilities, it seems life has other plans for Mile. As she begins her journey to become your everyday average hunter, she is joined by her friends, who are always on the verge of finding out her true identity and the true scope of her abilities. She manages to get away with this every time they confront her, but God knows how long she will be able to keep this up, especially when the only thing she's a failure at is keeping a low profile.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.